today, guys, we're going to be talking about Chapter 5, Section 7. We're going to be learning how to put quadratic functions into vertex form. In your journal, you should have written all of this down. If you haven't, you can do it later. But right now, we're going to look at problem number 1. So right now, we're going to zoom in right here on problem number 1. You're going to write the equation down exactly as it appears in your journal. Right above problem 1, I'm going to write y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. This right here is actually already in vertex form. In vertex form, your vertex will always be the values of h and k. This represents an x coordinate. This represents a y coordinate of your vertex. Now the vertex can either be a maximum or a minimum, but it will definitely show you in vertex form what those are. The axis of symmetry is the line that passes through the vertex. That will always be the equation x equals h. Okay? And the last part, when it says the direction of opening, it's either going to be up or it's going to be down. If it's up, that means your a value is greater than 0. If it's down, that means your a value is less than 0. So all we're going to do right now is we're going to take a look at our particular equation. All right? And I'm going to rewrite it a little bit to maybe help you guys see the vertex. But negative 6, I'm going to put x minus, and then right here I'm going to put a minus 2 close parentheses squared minus 1. Now I'm going to highlight something right in here where it says x minus h. You could also write things as x minus a negative 2. Now what happens to these negatives? They cancel out and become a positive. So what I need you guys to understand is that your h value is actually equal to the value of a negative 2. This is your h value. I don't know exactly what. Because, okay, here we go. Here's our equation. In vertex form, how is vertex form? We go back to, let me zoom back up here so you guys can see it. Right here, put a box around it. Do you guys see this standard equation for vertex form? It says what? It says x minus your h value. Now, here's what happens. We go back to our problem. Does it say x minus 2? No, it says x plus 2. Therefore, our h value must be a negative, not a positive. Okay? So our vertex is at negative 2, comma, whatever our k value is. Now that's this plus k, right? Does that say? So what do you think our k value is going to be? It's not going to be a 1, it's going to be a negative 1. So our vertex right here, everybody, is at a negative 2, negative 1. We have an axis of symmetry where x is equal to our h value. What is our h value? Negative 2. So I'm going to put x equals negative 2. It's going to be the vertical line that passes straight through the vertex. And right now, the last thing we're going to say is the direction of opening. What is our a value equal to? Our a value, negative 6. See, there's our a value. That's equal to a negative 6. So a is equal to negative 6. It's negative, therefore, the direction of opening is down. Now don't worry, this is not the only problem we're going to do, but I would like you guys to get your graphing calculators. And we're going to type it in so that you guys can clearly see this work in action. So right here, I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to hit y equals. All right. I'm going to hit zoom number 6 just to make sure everything is standard. I'm going to go y equals negative 6, open parentheses, x plus 2, close parentheses, squared. And then what was it, minus a 1? Okay? Now, this is our equation. Type it in exactly as it appears. Hit graph. Now, some of your calculators might not have these grid lines on it. Okay? If they don't have the grid lines on it, hit second, zoom, and you can go right over here where it says grid line and highlight it. So you scroll down like this. Go to the right twice where it's blinking. Press enter and you have your grid lines on. The next thing I want you to do is I actually want you to hit zoom number 4 and watch what happens. Zoom number 4 squares everything up. That's if you have the color calculators. Can everybody see this point right here? That point right there is at a what? Negative 2, negative 1, which represents our vertex. Okay? Now, I'm going to draw something in here to see if you guys can tell me what I'm attempting to draw. Vertex. If I could get it right down the middle, it would be helpful. That's not bad. So that line right there, what did we say that line was equal to? That's the axis of symmetry. That's x equals negative 2. That's our line of symmetry that splits that parabola perfectly in half. In which direction does it open? It opens down. Now we know that because we have a graphing calculator, right? What I want you guys to understand is you don't have to have a graphing calculator to find all the pieces of a parabola that you need to find. How much of the calculator did I use for this? Just to find these answers. I didn't use the calculator. I just have to find the answers. We used the calculator to show you that the answers were true. X equals negative 2. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to do the next problem, problem 2, which is a little bit more difficult than problem number 1. And moving over to problem number 2. Let's see if we can zoom out just a bit. There it is. Problem number 2. So if you guys would go ahead and write that down in your journal. Now, if you guys notice something, problem number 2, problem number 1 are a little bit different. Problem 1 is actually written in vertex form to begin with. It's pretty easy. Problem 2, that is not written in vertex form. So, right now, before we begin this journey, let's know what our destination looks like. Then we'll know when we actually get there. Y equals A, parentheses, x minus h, close parentheses, squared, plus k. Everybody, this is our destination. Does this look like we're anywhere close to our destination? No. Therefore, what I'd like you to do first, all right, is I would like you to create a space right here that we're going to use eventually. Put plus a y equals negative 4. We're going to open up a parentheses, make it nice and large right there. All right? And then notice, what number? We don't have a number over here, do we? No. So since we don't have a number, just imagine if I were to say plus a 0. There's no number right here. So I'm just going to put plus 0. You don't have to put plus 0 once you get good at it. I just want to make sure you know that there's no number over here at the end. All right. So now that you've done that, step number 1, after you've set it up like this, step number 1 is I want you guys to factor out negative 4 from the expression negative 4x squared plus 8x. So we're going to factor out a negative 4 from the expression negative 4x squared plus 8x. If that doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to give you another hint. Divide by negative 4. All right? That's what you're going to do. Divide by negative 4. So let's go over here and let's look at everything. If I take negative 4x squared and I divide it by negative 4, if I take this this right here. Divided by negative 4. What cancels out? Negative 4. What are we left with? X squared. If I take the positive 8x and I divide that by negative 4. Close. Negative 2, but negative 2x. Then, once you've done that, put plus an empty box, just like that. All right, now that I've done that, the next thing I want you guys to do is I want you to label this. I want you to label this is going to be your C value. We're going to complete the square. And remember, your C value will always be whatever the B is, divided by 2 squared every single time. This right here, everybody, that negative 2 is the B value. So what's half of negative 2?
1.
Negative 1, right? And what's negative 1 times negative 1? 1. So you're going to put a 1 right there. Now here's what you're used to doing. You're used to, whatever you do on one side, you're used to what? Doing on the other side. But this time, put an arrow to that box and understand, that box does not represent C. That box actually represents negative 4 times C. I'm going to highlight something and make sure you guys see this clearly. See this negative 4? This negative 4 is being distributed to this number, it's being distributed to this number, and technically to that number right there. So what is negative 4 times a 1? It's actually equal to what? Negative 4. So I'm going to go back so I don't have a whole bunch of highlighters. So that's why you're going to plug in a negative 4 right there instead of a positive 1. Now, I realize we have a bunch of stuff with arrows. So right now, let's rewrite what we have. We have a negative 4 plus a y equals negative 4, open parentheses. We're going to factor it next. Okay? And I'm just going to put plus 0 just to keep it factored. So the next thing I want you guys to look at is I want you guys to look at this part right in here. That part is x squared minus 2x plus 1. What does that factor to? So right here, what do we have to do from here to here? We have to factor this. Okay? So what does x squared minus 2x plus 1 factor to? That factors to x. X minus 1 squared.
It's a negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1.
And negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive one. That's how we got the positive one. Okay? Now we're basically almost done. All we have to do is one step. We're going to add this 4 from this side to zero it out. We're going to add it right over here with the 0. And here is your final answer. Y equals negative 4, open parentheses, x minus 1 squared plus a 4. This is your answer in vertex form. Right now, here's our equation. Our final equation was y equals negative 4, open parentheses, x minus 1 squared plus 4. Okay? Our vertex, remember, everybody, is going to be h, comma, k. Our h value is? No, it's actually a positive 1. The reason it's a positive 1, we got to follow the standard equation for vertex form. It says x minus h. Well, this is in minus x minus a 1. That's why it's a 1. Our k value, it says what? It says plus k. So what does our k value have to be? 4. So our vertex is at a 1, 4. Our axis of symmetry is x is equal to your h value. What is x equal to? 1. And you see how it's a negative? Since it's a negative, right here, what's the opening? The opening is down. Okay? Now, what I'd like you guys to do, in the graphing calculator, we have 30 seconds, so you better hurry up and watch this. I'm going to write y equals. I'm going to type in negative 4x squared. All right, I fast forwarded here. I've typed in both equations. This is what we started with, right? This is what we finished with. Now I'm going to hit graph. There's your first equation. There's your second equation. What'd you notice? They're the exact same thing. One is not in vertex form. One is in vertex form.